Hello and welcome to the Deck Tech. I'm Ian Duke, and with me here is Sam Pardee of Team Face to Face Games. Thanks for joining us, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're playing one of what I'll call the big three decks here this weekend. In addition to black-green base decks and copycat combo, you're actually playing Mardu Vehicles.
Yep.
So what made you decide to bring this deck here today?
So we thought that it wasn't that good against black-green, but it's okay. You can still win. You're a fast, aggressive deck, and you are really, really good at beating up on the copycat deck. You put a lot of pressure on them so they can't play a turn 3 Saheeli and expect it to live through a turn. And you have a lot of good, cheap removal and end the game very quickly, so you can end the game before their Gearhulks start coming down.
Awesome. So I'm sure we'll see some examples of some of those key cards in those matchups as we go through, but starting off with just kind of the foundation of the deck here, some powerful creatures, 1-drops. Walk us through the role each of these creatures plays.
So Toolcraft Exemplar is a pretty busted 1-drop if you're planning to have an artifact by the time he's going to attack. He hits for 3, basically a wild Nacatls rate, and that's a pretty darn good attacker. Thraben Inspector got a little worse, no more Smuggler's Copter, but picked up a few things also. It still works with the Toolcraft Exemplar, and the new land, Spire of Industry, works really well with that. So it's sort of part of your mana base, actually, to have the Thraben Inspector.
And so you mentioned the interaction between Thraben Inspector and Smuggler's Copter in last season's Standard, and importantly there was the Crew 1, right? So now none of the vehicles really have that Crew 1
Yeah, we don't have any Crew 1 vehicles. Aethersphere Harvester is a card you can play that's pretty good if you expect a lot of mirrors, so that it works well with that one, but we decided to skip that one for this PT. Okay.
PNLR, versatile card, pseudo card advantage, extra ways to leverage your artifact creatures.
Yeah, just 3 abilities on a card. You know, you get a Thopter with it, you get some things to do with artifacts. Again, it makes an artifact, helps out your Exemplar, makes all your guys bigger, and even though it only says 2 power down there, you actually get 3, so it crews all the vehicles in the deck.
Aha, excellent. And then Scrapheap Scrounger, just a very resilient card, doing a ton of work here this weekend. One of the major reasons for playing black, I imagine.
Yeah, Scrapheap Scrounger is huge in the deck. It gives you a way to beat Jeskai going long. It gives you cards against Fumigate, Radiant Flames. It does a lot. It also, again, 3 power there, crews all the vehicles, and is an artifact. So it works with this guy, works with the Spire. Really, really good.
Love it. Let's take a look at what we have next here. So some more excellent creatures. Again, that 3 power theme continues here.
Yep. You'll see Dwarf all along here. Veteran Motorist is probably the best 2-drop you can play. Maybe Scrapheap Scrounger is better, but the Scry 2 makes sure that you have gas going long. The power pump to the vehicles, especially with the new Heart of Kiran, means it can survive a Grasp of Darkness, which is sometimes huge.
Okay.
And your vehicles win in fights with other vehicles heads up, so that's really big. Aether Geode Miner, not a great card. It's a one of. We wanted another 2-drop. We wanted another guy with 3 power. It's a dwarf, so it works with Tapala. It has like sort of just enough going on to get one in there.
Maybe you get a little bit extra energy so you can reuse an Ether Hub or something like that.
Maybe it blinks. Sometimes it can attack in and they have to block it, and then it gets to blink itself, so you got sort of some extra damage elsewhere maybe. And again, it's another dwarf, so your Tapala hits a little bit more often and it gets pumped by it, but it's definitely the 60th card in the deck.
Okay, got it.
And then Tapala is just excellent. You have a lot of dwarves, a lot of vehicles. It has 3 power, and it finds all your cards.
But still staying at just 2 copies. I'm sure due in part because it's legendary, but
it's
also
a legend.
3 mana.
It competes with Pia a little bit, and you'd rather draw 1 of each than 2 of either. So
it makes total sense. All right, let's move on. See what we have next here. Some of the vehicles, the namesakes of the deck.
Yeah, so Cultivator's Caravan is sort of the one where you can go either way. You can play Aethersphere Harvester or Caravan. Caravan helps with the mana and leads to some really good turns where on turn 3 you play Caravan plus a 1-drop. So that can be really important. And also it's just giant. It's a 5/5 for 3 mana, and if you crew it with a Veteran Motorist or a Tapala, 6/6, it's really big. And then Heart of Kiran is the new one. It's amazing. This card might be better than Smuggler's Copter in this deck.
Wow.
It's really good. It hits super hard. The combo with Gideon is insane. It can attack, it can block, it just does it all.
Yeah, it really stands out to me that you have 4 copies of this legendary vehicle. Because, not only is it a legendary permanent, so drawing multiples can be clunky, but also vehicles are sort of naturally resilient. So if you have one on the battlefield, it's likely to stick. But the fact that you're playing 4 just automatically tells me, like, this card's awesome in this deck.
If they didn't kill it, they're probably dead, so who cares if you have extra in your hand? You probably won.
That logic works for me. All right, moving to the next, we have Yeah, some utility spells and Gideon, as you mentioned before. Yeah, walk us through these.
Yeah, so Disintegration kills anything dead and often deals 3 damage in this deck, which is about where you want to be. Gideon is just one of the best cards in Standard. He hits really hard, and like I said, he combos with Heart of Kirin with the remove loyalty ability. So there's actually turns I've had in this tournament where I played Gideon, and normally the thing you do when you play Gideon is you make a knight, but I had a Cultivator's Caravan in play. So you can plus Gideon, crew the Cultivator's Caravan with him, remove a counter from him, so he crewed 2 vehicles that have crew 3, and you're getting to attack for 9 that turn.
And then maybe even on your opponent's turn, you crew your Heart of Kirin using loyalty to block, since it has vigilance.
Yeah, and then Shock is good against the copycat deck. You shock them after they go off, because their Saheeli goes down to 1 loyalty, so it stops that from happening. And it's just a cheap interactive card. You can play it off Caravan. Turns where you play Caravan into Shock, they're usually really good. It's not great. There's a lot of things it doesn't hit, so only 2.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So what's next here? Into the mana base.
Yep.
I imagine the mana base is pretty tricky in a deck like this with so many colors.
You got a lot going on. So we got the 12 fast lands. Those are pretty good. Cast your 1-drops on time. You don't have a lot of cards that cost 4 mana, only Gideon. And then Spire of Industry is the new one. That card's really, really good in this deck. It's awkward if you only draw Spire of Industries, but for the most part, you have a lot of artifacts that stick around. You have the Thraben Inspector. You can just choose to not sack the clue if you need this to continue to produce colored mana, and taps for any color. It's just a great card. The life loss doesn't hurt you very much.
Now, I'll take a quick look at Spire Bluff Canal here. This actually produces blue mana, even though we're calling this Mardu Vehicles. So I imagine, we're not covering sideboards today, but I have to imagine that's a nod to potential options.
There may be some blue sideboard cards.
Makes sense. And taking a look at the rest of the mana base here, rounding things out, 1 Needle Spires, just a little bit of extra mana fixing, as well as pressure in the form of a creature land.
Yeah, I've actually activated it a few times this tournament. It's been very good, and you can afford to have 1 land that comes into play tapped and taps for 2 colors. And then Aether Hub, not great in this deck. You don't have a lot of ways to get energy, but sometimes you just need a land that taps for any color.
Yeah, I also imagine, just with all the different mana constraints, you'd often run out of energy if you were leaning too heavily on Aether Hubs.
Yeah, we tried a mana base with 4, and it really didn't work out. You only get 1 shot at using it, basically. It's pretty close to a Tendo Ice Bridge.
And I have to imagine Spire of Industry kind of took over that slot,
Exactly, yeah. Spire of Industry does the same thing much better.
So yeah, much more consistent mana base than sort of what we saw last season. So anyway, deck looks great, looks very straightforward, looks like something awesome you could bring to F&M and just have a good time with. And seems like you're doing pretty well in the tournament so far?
Yeah, so far so good. I have 1 loss in Constructed and 1 loss in Draft, so 5-2 overall.
Well, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Sam Pardee, I'm Ian Duke, signing off from Deck Tech.